The views and opinions expressed on My Story Living with Lupus podcast represents each person's individual experience. By listening to this podcast or reading our blog, you agree not to use this podcast or blog as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. As always, consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. My Story Living with Lupus podcast is officially trademarked, all rights reserved. Thank you for joining me for another episode of My Story Living with Lupus podcast. I'm your host, Susan Hendricks, and I'm so glad that you could join me on this Friday, February the 12th, 2021. In this episode, you will hear about FDA announces drug trial information for new lupus and chronic heart failure medications. Also, you'll hear about the CEO's sentence after fraudulently enrolling patients in hospice. You know what I want you to do? That's right. All the way from the United States to the municipality of Karpos, Macedonia. Get ready to grab your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, and to my listeners late at night. Now you know that I appreciate you, so get ready to grab your glass of wine and come on and join the conversation right here on My Story Living with Lupus podcast. How is everyone doing on this Friday? Are you glad that it's Friday? Well, the weather here in Michigan, my God, it has been cold. I hate to see the cold season come here. My muscle and my legs have knotted up on me, and I've been trying to do some stretches and trying to stretch the muscle out to give me a little bit relief. But right now, we're getting ready to talk about the FDA announces new drug trial information for new lupus and chronic heart medication. Tucson, Arizona. This was reported by KOLD News 13. This happened on February the 10th. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration announced the information for two new medications that recently underwent clinical trials. The first is called Lupkynis and is used to treat patients with active lupus nephritis, an inflammation of the kidneys that is caused by a chronic autoimmune disease. According to the FDA, patients who receive the drug for 1 year achieve major reduction in kidney inflammation. The drug was taken by mouth twice daily in combination with two others. Now, Lupkynis is said to work similarly for men and women, and its most common side effects include kidney toxicity, high blood pressure, diarrhea, headache, anemia, cough, and urinary tract infection. The second drug, known as Vercuva, will be used to reduce the risk of death and hospitalizations in patients with long-lasting chronic heart failure, a condition where their heart is not pumping as well as it should be. The drug, which is taken by mouth once daily, is not to be used by pregnant women. Some of the common side effects includes low blood pressure and low red blood cell count. This drug will be used to treat patients having chronic health symptoms who have had a recent hospitalization and those who need to receive intravenous medications. Hey, have you heard about Shop for a Cause? That's right. My Story Living with Lupus podcast, in conjunction with the Charlie E. and Minnie P. Hendricks Foundation for Chronic Illness Awareness, presents Shop for a Cause. That's right, from February the 6th through February 28th. You can shop at https://mystorylivingwithlupus.com. On that website, you'll find jewelry, hidden treasures, you'll find dresses, you'll find jackets. It is an abundance of items you'll find. And you want to know what else? 100% of all sales are going directly to the foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit to assist those in need. That's right, by purchasing medication, food, and other daily living expenses. So, won't you help us raise money for the foundation and shop for a cause? That's right, from February 6th through February 28th. Join us at https://mystorylivingwithlupus.com and shop for cause. The Charlie E. and Minnie P. Hendricks Foundation for Chronic Illness Awareness, giving hope and empowering those who suffer with chronic illness. See one, reach one, educate one to empower the masses. You can contact the foundation at 313-303-9217 or visit their website at https://CEMPHfoundation.com. This is a 501c3 organization. No one should live in lack. All contributions are tax deductible. You know, I have a question for you. Since Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and you know there is so much pressure to make Valentine's Day extra special each year, but we have to remind ourselves that the most important Valentine's Day gift is time spent together. So have you thought about what you can do with that special Valentine of yours? Have you thought about playing a game? Well, have you ever thought about truth or dare? Have you ever thought about making a playlist for each other of your favorite songs that bring back memories? Have you ever thought about going out, yes, in this cold where I'm at, in other places it is warm? Have you ever thought about taking a walk or a hike? What about taking an online mixology class? Have you ever thought about that? Well, what about playing tourists in your own town? What about setting up like a buffet style dinner, which would have breakfast foods also, like a bar? What about sitting down and making a scrapbook of your relationship with that special someone? Or getting in the kitchen and baking something really sweet for your special Valentine? Or just eat breakfast in bed, hop in the car and go for a drive? Enjoy a wine and chocolate tasting session with each other. One of you go out and get different wines and different chocolates from different regions and just sit down and enjoy that time. What about, let's see, making a special card for your special Valentine? Or simply cook dinner, write a love letter to your special Valentine, or watch a romantic movie, exchange gifts, or have a Parisian date night, or send your partner on a treasure hunt within your home, or take a relaxing bath, practice yoga together, take a class together, make some music together. What about making a heart-shaped pizza? See, I'm giving you all of these ideas. What about giving each other a massage? That's right. Now, I've given you a list of ideas for you to think about and make that special day for someone that you really care about. Now we're going to get into the CEO sentence after fraudulently enrolling patients in hospice. This was reported by Medscape. Henry McInnes, CEO of the Texas-based Merida Group of hospice and home health entities has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for telling patients with incurable illnesses that they had less than 6 months to live so that the company could enroll them in hospice. The company collected more than $150 million in fraudulent Medicare payments, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, better known as the DOJ. Most hospice programs require that patients have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. Trial testimony also pointed to bribes and kickbacks to physicians. According to a DOJ press release, multiple witnesses testified that McInnes ordered employees, which his organization has dozens of locations across Texas, to change medical records to make it appear that patients were terminally ill. In reality, some were employed or even participating in sporting events, the DOJ stated. In November 2019, a federal jury convicted McInnes, who is from Harlingen, Texas, of conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, obstruction of justice, as well as 6 counts of healthcare fraud. His partner in the scheme, Rodney, owner of the hospice and home health entities, was also convicted in November 2019 trial and was sentenced to 20 years in prison in December 2020. Now, in my opinion, I would have gave them life to tell people who had nothing wrong with them that they were terminally ill, and gave them 6 months or less to live and then place them in hospice. Do you know the mental anguish that left on those patients? Well, 2 other co-conspirators have pled guilty and are awaiting sentencing. A $150 million scheme. The scheme would stretch from 2009 to 2018, 9 years, involves submitting of more than $150 million in fraudulent bills, falsification of medical records, and the paying of kickbacks. Acting Attorney General Nicholas L. McQuaid of the DOJ's Criminal Division said in a statement. According to press release, McInnes and his partners directed bribes to physicians under the guise of medical director fees to certify unqualified patients for hospice and home health. In some cases, they improperly offered payoff to marketers in exchange for recruitment of patients who could be placed on extremely expensive hospice services. And they wonder why some patients don't trust the medical field. Here you go. Many of the patients who Merida leaders pride upon had diminished mental capacity, McQuaid said. According to the Texas Health and Human Service Inspector General, chaplains were sent to the targeted patients to discuss last rites. Now, that's why some people don't trust chaplains or ministers because of situations like this. Now, in addition to the cruelty of telling patients they had months to live, there were medical consequences as well. When the patients were enrolled in hospice, curative measures stopped. I used to work for a hospice a long time ago. Special agent in charge, Miranda L. Bennett, with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General, said in a statement, quote, McInnis and his co-conspirators' reprehensible and deceitful actions to defraud Medicare weren't without harm. Vulnerable beneficiaries were unnecessarily enrolled in hospice care, preventing them from accessing needed curative care. Now, in this case, I wonder where the guardians were. Wasn't there anybody to question these doctors and chaplains and anybody else involved on what was going on with their loved one? Now, that should have been also. Now, according to the DOJ, McInnis had no medical training. Hello. He was previously employed as an electrician. Oh my God. He acted as the de facto director of nursing for the Meridia Group. Oh my God. Witnesses at the trial testified that McInnis instructed employees to admit unqualified patients to hospice and home health care and to provide services to unqualified patients for long periods. He fired and reprimanded employees who refused to participate in the scheme. Witnesses said the employees were told that the actions were needed so that the Meridia Group could pass insurance company audits. According to a December 16th press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Texas that announced the sentencing, McInnis and his partners used the extra funds, guess what, to buy? Luxury vehicles, clothing, jewelry, real estate, sporting event tickets, and security services. I guess you would need that because if that was a loved one of mine, I would have busted in that place and took my loved one out and brought them home. That's why it is so necessary. If for any reason you have to place a loved one in a nursing home, you have to check on them on a regular basis. Don't allow them to just do anything to your loved one. The two also treated physicians to lavish parties at these elite nightclubs, providing them with tens of thousands of dollars in alcohol and other perks in exchange for medically unnecessary patient referrals. My God, my God. That's why I'm going to say it again. That's why I emphasize to you guys so much to become knowledgeable with what is going on with your health and your healthcare providers. Be your own best advocate. And if you have loved ones who are unable to advocate on their own behalf, you do it for them. Stay with me. We'll return. If you would like to appear on an episode of My Story Living with Lupus, you can contact us at mystorylivingwithlupus@gmail.com. Also visit us on our Instagram page and also our website, My Story Living with Lupus. The pandemic. How have you been taking care of you? I'm talking about self-care. That's right, self-care. Now, I know we have heard that word and it has become the buzzword for 2020 now in 2021. But in the face of the pandemic and everything that's been going on around the world, self-care is a necessity. There is a fine balance between protecting your physical health and guarding your mental and emotional well-being. You know, there is numerous of research that is out there that states psychological correlates of adherence to self-care, disease activity, and functioning in persons with systemic lupus. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning is grab your phone to see what's going on Instagram, what's happening on TikTok, Twitter, what's the other one? Instagram, Snapchat. Are you doing that? Do you leave your phone on at night and you receive calls in the middle of the night while you're sleeping and it wakes you up and it's all about someone calling you with their problem that's going on in their life? How are you taking care of you? What are some coping strategies that you use to say, no, this is my time? You know, lupus is exhausting enough. We all know that. The chronic fatigue and all of that, it is totally exhausting. But what do you do for yourself? Do you take time to have a relaxing bath? Do you get a full night's sleep? Now, we know that our sleep pattern is off, and we can wake up in the middle of the night, throughout the night. But what do you do for you to say, this is my time for me? Do you set off time to yourself to read a book? These are some uncertain times right now. How are you managing stress and anxiety? You have to take some time to check in with yourself. Are you feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or drained? Think about what would help in managing those feelings. What will help you recharge? Is it calling up an old friend? Watch your favorite comedy special? Or do you get online and just chit-chat? Now, how do you maintain your connections? Since social distancing is necessary, and everyone should be taking it seriously. Whether your immune system is uncompromised or compromised. But we know that isolation can be damaging to our mental psyche. You have to take time to connect with others around something other than sitting up and looking at the news. Have you thought about calling your old friends and catching up? Have you thought about playing virtual games or watch a movie with friends? Or what about even getting on Zoom and have a virtual class reunion? Anything, get a group together on Zoom and watch a movie, or start a book club on Zoom with your friends and come together once a week. That'll give you something other than what is going on, besides going to the doctor, besides listening to the news on a regular basis. There has to be things that you enjoy doing for you. Think about it. Just think about it. What do you love to do? Is it painting? If it's painting, get you a paint by number set, or pull out your paints and your easel and pick the best time for you to do it. If you love to read, start back to reading. If you love to cook, think of some new recipes that you would like to try, but just find time for self-care and self-intervention. That's right, self-intervention. Paint your nails. Have a spa day at home, or get on Zoom with your girlfriends and have a spa day. on Zoom with your girlfriends, while you're doing your toenails and your nails. You could all be chit-chatting. That's just some ideas that you could utilize to take care of you. And it could go for men also. Get together on Zoom with some of the fellows. Play, you ever thought about playing cards? And you may ask, how can you play cards on Zoom? Where there's a will, there's a way. You can devise a way to play cards on Zoom or chess on Zoom or have a guys' night on Zoom. Watch a football game on Zoom with each other during this time. These are just some ideas. You may think it's silly, but if you think about it, it's oh so necessary. That's right. Just think about it. Stay with me, and when we return, I'll be closing out, so stay with me. All right, it's that time for me to go. I hope you take some time out for self-care. Self-care is so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. And the most powerful relationship you will ever have is the relationship, guess with who? Yourself. When you recover or discover something that nourishes your soul and brings you joy, care enough about it yourself to make room for it in your life. Yes, talk to yourself like you would to someone you love. Self-care is how you take your power back. Put yourself at the top of your to-do list every single day, and the rest will fall into place. I'm your host, Susan Hendricks, for another episode of my story, Living with Lupus podcast. I'm so glad that you could join me today. I want you to do me several favors. Have a peaceful, positive, and oh so blessed and safe weekend. I'll see you next week for another episode of my story, Living with Lupus podcast.